My mothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
The topic that we have been discussing through this month of Muharram has been finding peace in an imperfect world, balancing acceptance, action, and hope. So the reason for choosing this topic is because what psychology tells us, what has been our own experience in this world, is that most of the time, the reason we do things is to find peace. So let me give you an example. We eat generally because our body is distressed, it's hungry. Well, not when we overeat, but you know what I mean, right? We sleep why? To give our body rest because it is in distress somehow. So most of our actions are either motivated to go towards pleasure or peace or to run away from pain. Those are the main reasons why human beings do something. And so the human need for happiness, peace is very innate, it's inbuilt. And not only do we not want peace in the hereafter, we also want it here, okay? So Allah tells us quite a few things in the Quran about the nature of this world and the fact that we're not meant to live here, that we're meant to be travelers, that our home is in the hereafter, right? However, he does say that we are allowed to enjoy life while we're here. This is not as easy as it sounds, okay? Because given the nature, like, you look around you, it is full of distress, right? There is so much conflict in the world. There is so much, from the global perspective to traffic, to our own families, challenging relationships. There are opportunities for distress everywhere. So given that this world is imperfect, right, and temporary, the question is, how then do we find peace? Like, are we just meant to kind of suffer here and wait for our, reward in the hereafter? Because some of us do think like that, right? Especially women, when we get very fed up, when life is very challenging, we just say, okay, fine, I'll just suffer here and then I'll, hopefully get my reward. But that's not a very, very hopeful way of looking at things. Why? Because some scholars say that there is actually a paradise on this earth, which one needs to enter the paradise of the hereafter.
Subhanallah.
This paradise is the tranquility and contentment of the heart. Given that this world is full of distractions and distress, obviously contentment of the heart is not that easy. In other words, if I think I can be distressed here and at peace there, what scholars tell us that that's not likely to happen. We have to start practicing peace in this world to go to the Darus Salam. Because, we know that the paradise is called Darus Salam, right? So over these last few days, we've been talking about many things, which are causing distress in our lives. But today I thought we would look at the Quran first to see what Allah tells us. Where are we, where can we find sources of peace in this world? Okay. So two verses I've chosen for reflection. The first one is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and this is from Surah Nahl, where Allah says, Wallahu ja'ala lakum min buyutikum sakan. I have, has given you a place to abide. We have given you a place to abide, to rest, to have some sort of tranquility in your homes. Okay, very interesting. And then the second, so basically, the idea is that our jobs, because many of us are leaders in our own homes, right? So our job is to create that kind of home that will provide a place for peace, not only for ourselves, but also to provide a place for connection to the divine, because ultimately that is our aim, right? We know that this world, no matter how distracting it is, it's so temporary. And the older we get, I don't know about you, but it just seems like, where did the time go, right? So given that this world is so temporary, obviously we also have to think about peace in the hereafter. So we have to facilitate that kind of connection to the divine within our homes, okay? Secondly, where does it say that we find peace? Is in our family relationships, in our spouses, okay? So first of all, marriage in Islam, we know, is a part of worship, very, very importantly. And this is, it's very sad. We only ever talk about marriage when somebody's getting married, right? You go to a marriage milad and we hear the same verse and, it's advice. We never think it's advice for us. It's actually advice for the newlyweds, right? We think, the culture today tells us that the end of the story is when they get married, right? Live happily ever after. We're all impacted by that. But, this is guidance to how to create a family life for all of us. And the longer we've been in a relationship, the longer we've been in a family, the more important it is for us, right? So I really don't want us to think, oh, I've been married so long, this doesn't apply to me. Please don't do that, okay? So just take whatever you can. So firstly, it's a part of worship. Secondly, let's review the ayat where Allah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Surah Rum, all of you know this better than me, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and amongst his signs. What else are signs of Allah? Shair Allah is what? Ayat of Allah is what? He says there are ayat afaqi, are signs in the cosmos, and there are signs within us, ayat nafsi. But he also calls the marriage relationship a sign of his. An khalaqalakum min anfusikum. So I have created you from people like you, like human beings. Okay. So in a sense, like your equals, kind of the same race, whatever. Min anfusikum azwajan. Why? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of marriage? Litaskunu ilayha. So that you may find tranquility in them. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and I gifted you, I created in this relationship two things, mawadda, love, and rahma, compassion. In a sense, think of it this way, right? It is said that, Allah loves it when a home is made out of marriage, right? And this is kind of his gifts to the couple. His wedding gift to the couple is mawadda and rahma. And the purpose of giving these gifts is so that they can build a life so that they can experience sukoon on this planet. We have to ask ourselves if this is what we're experiencing or not, right? Most surely, these are inna fi zalika le ayati le qawmi yatafakkarun. This doesn't apply to everyone. It applies to people who reflect and who actually apply it to themselves. Okay. So how is marriage a sign of Allah? There's a really good book called Sacred Marriage, where I forgot his first name, but Thomas, the author, writes that, how your marriage can help you grow spiritually closer to God. According to Thomas, marriage can be the gym in which our capacity to experience and express God's love is strengthened and further developed. To get there, we have to realize that human love and divine love are not separate oceans, but rather one body of water with many tributaries. We show our love for God in part by loving our spouses well. Okay, so, when we read this, we think, okay, it doesn't apply to me. It's too late for me, right? But what the Quran again tells us that the Ibadur Rahman, the famous lines in Surah Furqan where Allah is talking about what are the signs of Ibadur Rahman, his servants of the merciful, right? And he says that what is their continuous prayer or their continuous prayer for guidance is Yaquluna Rabbana Hablana. So Allah grant us min azwajina wa zuriyatina, from amongst our spouses and our children. So basically our families, even if you're not married, in your families, this is what's available. Wa zuriyatina qurrata ayunin, the delight of our eyes. Qurrata ayunin is such a beautiful word in Arabic, very hard to translate in English, right? It simply means the coolness. Sometimes when you're so happy that you cry, and your eyes get teary, that's like the coolness of the eyes, right? So that kind of delight to be in each other's company. Zuriyatana qurrata ayunin wa ja'alna lil muttaqina imam. And make us guides for the muttaqin, make us imams for the muttaqin. What does this mean? Being leadership, the quality of leadership means who do we start with? Do we start as bosses, bossing our families? How do we start this? Sorry, I didn't hear. With each other, with ourselves. Okay. Because, here's the thing. Every time, we hear a lecture, I will have a workshop, there will inevitably be people who come up to say, I really know somebody who needs to hear this. Oh. So in case any of you are thinking that, right, my invitation is start here. Start with ourselves. Because, yesterday, and all my majalis, inshallah, will be uploaded. So if you want to catch up, you can. Yesterday, we spent a long time, or one of these days, talked a long time, like one of the prescriptions for misery, opposite of peace. One of the prescriptions for unhappiness is to focus all our energy and effort on things we cannot change or control.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when we think like this, if I'm sitting here crowing, like literally, that I just wish my daughter could hear this right now, or my husband really needs to hear this, or my sister-in-law really needs to hear this. It's a waste of energy. Zahra has invited you to this fash, right? So let's start with ourselves. Salawat.
Allah.
So we said that basically the Islamic philosophy of marriage is a very, very modern philosophy. The problem is that these days, we think that Islam is so old-fashioned and, we are marrying for love these days and we're doing all of this. Honestly, if we just go back to the text, we can never go wrong. Because look at this. First of all, it's a part of worship, which means what? That every kind of good intention and action you have in your marriage benefits you. Okay, so you're getting a lot of reward for it. Number two, it is love and companionship. It is your opportunity to experience happiness on this plane of existence. And sexuality. Islam is a very, very modern religion. It does not say that, sexuality is only for procreation. There's so many hadiths about when there is intimate relationships between a man and a woman, it's their sins fall off. It's it is the angels are with you. It is amazing how God puts barakah in things that we anyway enjoy, right? And so that is where the intention comes in. Anything that we do with intention becomes a part of worship, isn't it? Because that's what, if I'm going up and down, it's not worship. But if I make that intention to salah, then my same actions become intention, right? If I'm doing intermittent fasting, not fasting, right? But if I do the same thing with the intention of fasting, then I get rewards for it, right? So the very, very important part, though, of the marriage experience is that it is a human growth machine. Okay. Everyone's heard the hadith that when a person gets married, he has safeguarded half his deen. We've all heard it many times, right? And we always think, oh, it means that you don't do haram and, you're protected and all of that. But that's not all that deen is about. Marriage, you will get more opportunities to perfect your deen than any other place. Do you know what I mean? You'll get an opportunity to practice patience. You will get an opportunity to practice shukr. You will get an opportunity to practice self-control. A lot of it, right? Absolutely. So it is the best lab for self-growth that you can have. Okay. So, sorry. So what is causing this? I don't know about you, but obviously this is my work. So what I see is not peace in homes. And I know obviously I have kind of a skewed, because people don't come to me when they're blissfully happy, right? So what I see is lack of peace at homes. And obviously it's part of my personal, interest to understand why, what is causing it, and what can we do? So just to give you a heads up, I didn't even look at the time when I started. So somebody has to give me a 5 minutes heads up. Okay. We'll do this in 2 parts, right? So today we'll talk about the challenges and how we get lost in conflict, very important. And then the next time we meet, inshallah, we can talk about some really simple ways that we can, build a peaceful home, okay? Because this has been my personal journey, not to rush through things, but actually to leave something behind rather than just to give you a very broad. Oh, what time should I start?
It's up to you.
No.
Everybody else.
It's never up to me. Never up to
I-
me.
I-
No,
I
because
will
I
let
forgot to
everybody
start.
else
I forgot. Like 3 o'clock is okay? 10 to 3? Okay. So what is causing this?
Sorry.
lack of peace? Any ideas? Yes, Wendy. Sorry? Dissatisfaction. Yeah. But what dissatisfaction with what? Because, a lot of what we have, sorry, go ahead.
That the inability to understand emotions.
Okay, yes. I mean, that's like very micro. I'm talking about very micro level right now. The problem is that humans have done a lot to mess themselves up. Okay. Like we say that we have no time today. Okay. If you look at it, can we just settle down a bit? I'm very easily distracted, by the way, just so you know. Okay. I will have completely no idea what I'm talking about. So what was I saying? Yeah, that we have a lot of time-saving devices, right? We have a lot of comfort in this world. We don't have to go by camel anywhere. We have very fast-moving cars, and yet we do not have time. Does anyone think they have excess of time? No. This is a very, very common experience that we have. It's been called the great time famine. And when you don't have time, what do? You're continuously rushed. You're continuously not where you are, but you are hoping to get somewhere else. Now, this is the opposite of connection, by the way, because when you are wanting to connect, you have to pay attention and be in the same place. Again, lots and lots of research. I've written about this a lot, that our cell phones, how we're connected to this all the time. We need to know this research, right? We wonder why our relationships, kids, siblings, parents, why are they so devoid of connection? What research shows? That if you have a phone in sight, even if it is not yours, having a phone in sight will change the quality of attention and communication in that room. We need to know this because we are doing it to ourselves and then we wonder what is going wrong. Okay. Secondly, materialism. Now, a huge thing. Why do I bring this up? Because the vast majority of conflicts in families happen because of money. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, by the way. Whether you have less or more, it has no correlation with whether or not you are fighting about money. This idea of continuously striving for more. Again, we did a whole session on that. But the biggest takeaway is that if it is making you happy, keep doing it. But it is not going to make you happy because Allah, the creator who created us, has told us through his guides that being so involved in the material world is not going to make you happy, because it's like drinking from the salty sea. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. So please try it. If you are not happy living in a 2-bedroom apartment, living in a 5-bedroom house is not going to make us happy. And the thing is, it's not about not enjoying good things. It's not about that. It is about having that feeling of contentment. It is about recognizing that, yes, I am chasing this, but it is not for my own peace and happiness. Okay. And the third thing is, external stressors. There's so many stressors in our lives, right? Job, money, in-laws, right? Other family members, immigration. There are countless stressors in our lives. Now, the problem with when we bring our stress home, which we do, because what happens that when we're engaging in the world, we are continuously on our best behavior. We have to kind of hold it together, right? Whenever clients are like, when one of them is misbehaving, I'll always ask them, do you behave like this at work, right? And if you don't, if you can hold it together, it means that it's not a personality defect, that you just chose to take it out on people who have no option, right? So when we enter our homes and we bring the stressors of life, what happens? We feel depleted. Right? Because stress depletes you. We all know that. When we're stressed, we're so tired. The first thing that grows when you are stressed is attention. And relationships, intimate relationships, family relationships, parent-child, they thrive on attention. You know, I'd written a blog somewhere, I'm sure it's there somewhere, called Building Love One Moment at a Time, right? It tells you how it's so simple. You know, we think, how do I change my relationship? Forget changing your relationship. Just think of the next moment. Think of your next interaction with the person that you are in relationship with. Don't think of the whole relationship, right? It's about paying attention in those small moments. So when we are stressed, the attention goes, the energy goes, right? We're very irritable. Like, I know I've been so focused and I've been so irritable these days. And the thing is, because of the work I do, I really recognize it, right? So, and my husband's really going through a lot of stress too. And that's a recipe for disaster. You know, it's literally a recipe for disaster. Okay. So, you know, the thing is that relationships don't become distressed in one go. It is these small moments, these small acts, you know, somebody's trying to get your attention. And the thing is, you know, attention, it's so simple, right? Like what research shows is that it's called turning towards, making a bid for connection. So it could be something like, oh, I heard this majlis yesterday and this is what he said, or this is what she said, and I'm wondering about it. And I'm very focused on preparing. Okay. And I'm like, this is what I'm feeling, right? That don't bother me right now. I'm focused on something else, right? So my husband made a bid, and what did I do? I did not respond to his bid. It is that simple. If there are three ways of responding to a bid, right? One is, oh, okay, tell me more. Interesting. And it can be, oh, look at that bird, or look at, it doesn't even have to be like a long drawn out conversation, right? So I can say, oh, tell me more. That's turning towards, very, very good for your relationship. The second bit is just ignoring it, which is, how often do we do that? Especially like when we are busy with our phones or whatever, right? And the third thing is like that is actually punishing the other person for making the bid. Like, stop it, don't distract me, can't you see I'm busy, right? So when we, and another thing that happens with stress is that we automatically notice negative behaviors more than we notice positive behavior. We've all experienced this, by the way. We all have, right? When we're stressed, little things annoy you, okay? And if you are not careful, the problem is if you have a really strong relationship, you're stressed once in a while, no big deal, okay? The problem happens when it becomes like a cycle, that you're just stressed all the time, and then it gets worse and worse, right? So what research shows is that it's actually a mathematical formula, interestingly. Okay, so in order to keep a relationship healthy and strong, you have to have at least minimum of 5 positive interactions for every negative interaction that you have. Okay, it's called the golden ratio, like the 5-to-1 ratio. Why? Because we know, like, family can do 10 nice things for us. They do one bad thing. What are we going to remember? One bad thing. And that's not only us. That is the human design. That is, our minds are Velcro for the negative. It sticks. So it's not a design flaw, right? The thing is, we have to be intentional. If you're not aware of it, because here's the thing, nobody sets out to destroy their relationships. True? We don't have this intention. And yet, unknowingly, we keep doing things which are making it worse. And by the way, this is for every relationship. Huh? Although I'm talking about family, it could be with your friends, with your siblings, whatever. So over time, what happens is the relationship becomes more and more like people start giving up. They don't associate their family person or their spouse with peace. They start associating them with conflict and with distress. And that's when the real trouble happens, right? And we know lots of research that conflict at home impacts every aspect of your life. I mean, this is what I deal with pretty much all day long, right? That I can't function. I can't function at work. My other relationships are suffering. My health is suffering, right? So, and very interestingly, Imam Ali in Najul Balagha says, Respect your family because they are the wings with which you fly, your roots towards which you move, and your hands with which you reach. In other words, they are your stable. This is the safe haven that we're talking about. Okay? And so our next point is that in order to have this kind of peace, we need to build safety. We need to build psychological safety. Now, obviously, we know physical safety is like, hopefully we don't need to talk about that here, right? If you do not have physical safety in the home, which means violence, breaking stuff, people are scared, walking on eggshells, first of all, you will get into trouble with the law. Okay. So, and even if that doesn't happen, it's impossible to have safety, to have peace where there is no safety. We see this on a global level, right? So what are we talking about when we talk about psychological safety? So psychological safety means, first of all, a lot of people think that I have conflict, we don't agree on things, we disagree on things, which means our relationship is in trouble. Okay. It does not mean that. Please understand that conflict does not harm relationships, whether it is with your children, with your, it's very, and as children grow, I mean, good luck. Amazing if you agree on everything. Please tell me how. Okay. So conflict is not the issue because, what research shows that people who remain happily married over a long time and people who struggle in their relationships have the same number of problems. Same number of problems, okay? The problem happens is that they don't manage conflict well. And what does spirituality tell us about this, right? So obviously when there's unmanaged conflict means there's this feeling of hatred, anger, that becomes like what we call the emotional climate of the home. And if the emotional climate of the home is so negative or toxic, you cannot have peace surviving there, whether it is for children or for ourselves. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Iblis becomes so happy when there is hatred between two people who love each other, causing their love to die and hence drifting apart. Here, Iblis becomes as happy as he was on the day that he deceived Prophet Adam and had him taken out of heaven. Shaitan's songs, Shaitan sings when there is a conflict in the home. May Allah make him happy who makes me happy. Because of this fact, this couple is angry, not talking to each other. It makes me very happy. So this is something that, these are reminders for ourselves, right? That sometime, inshallah, if you're about to go down that road, that this will remind us, okay, that, that we shouldn't go there. So the Prophet also said, a person cannot be considered a Muslim until other people are safe from his hand and tongue. And if this is not the case, then such a person is not a Muslim. In addition, a person is not considered a Mu'min until his Muslim brother and neighbors are safe from him, annoying him or aggravating him. In other words, if I am a source of trial for my family instead of a blessing, okay, then this is the warning that, hopefully we don't hit each other, but from our tongues, right? If people are not safe from our tongues. So the idea is that we have to be mindful of when we are engaging in conflict. I always say, please fight. Do not give up on fighting in your relationship. Because when you fight in your relationship, when you have conflict, it means that it is still alive, that you still care, that you're still bringing up things. And by the way, in most relationships, it's always the women who bring up issues. So that is not uncommon. And if you are the one bringing up issues in your family, good, you're doing a good job. Because, no, honestly, because men are very easily pleased, generally. They would rather not talk about anything, right? Yeah. And in order to do better, we have to kind of make our needs known, okay? However, the way we do it is very, very important. And what I've tried to do, really tried hard to do, is take Islamic teachings and marry them with research, and then, kind of come up with a plan. So first of all, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, let your heart be your tongue's qibla. Let your heart be your tongue's qibla. In other words, your tongue is under your heart. Okay? Do not move it except by the heart's order, the aql's assent, and the faith's consent. Okay, so will our words change if we are following this? Okay, what research shows is that when agreements almost always end with the same intensity as how they begin. And women in particular, we love to, we get frustrated easily and we want to get attention and we start on an escalated pace. Okay. What does Quran tell us? Pursue the right course in your going about and lower your voice. Surely the most hateful of voices is the braying of asses. Okay. The thing is that why do we yell? Because we want somebody's attention. Okay. We need to understand what happens though. When we yell, when we raise our voice, and this is why the Quran is cautioning us against it, the human brain codes it as danger. They code it as danger, and a lot of, especially, men, they don't show their emotions as easily as women, right? So it seems like they're very stoic, nothing's happening, they're completely calm. If you were to put, if they were in a doctor's lab and they were hooked up to all sorts of electrodes, you would see that they were completely emotionally hijacked at that point. That they were not, and what happens is that when we are in that state, so upset because we're being attacked, we cannot, not possible to have a rational conversation. Because your thinking brain is offline. It is not engaged. There's a reason for that, because if you're being attacked by a tiger and you sat to see what the stripes look like, you would be eaten. So Allah has designed it so that our brain goes offline so that we can only either what? Fight, flee, or fall down dead. And if you notice, this is exactly what happens when we raise our voice. It either results in escalation, exit, or disengagement. Have you noticed that? Right. So know that although you want your words heard, the worst way to go about it is to raise your voice. Like, it's just never going to help. Okay. The second part is criticism. So remember I said fight, complain, that's a really good thing. Complaining, really good for relationships, right? Criticism, really bad for relationships. What's the difference? Complaining is, I see socks on the floor. I say, there are socks on the floor that really upsets me. I just finished doing laundry. Okay, that's a complaint. A criticism is, you are so disrespectful, lazy, slob. Didn't your mother teach you anything? Can you see the difference? You always do it. You never listen to me, right? So when you are criticizing, what is the brain of the other person doing? Either shutting off or defending. Yeah. Like every time you say always and never, they're coming up with times when they did and they did not, right? That is human nature. So again, criticism is the easy way to go. It's really easy and it doesn't work. Okay. So even, it's very interestingly, the Quran tells the Prophet in Surah Al Imran, had you been rough or hard-hearted, they would certainly have dispersed from around you. I always like to remind myself this, that even if the Prophet can't get away with it, what are the chances? What are the chances that I'm going to be like in a bad mood and irritable and critical and people are going to flock towards me? Like, what are the chances, right? So, and again, the Prophet reminds us, whoever insults his family would lose happiness in his life. Okay, number 3, avoid negative interpretation. What do we mean by negative interpretation, right? Hubby comes home, says, what are we doing for dinner? You say, why is it always my job to make dinner? Okay. Again, so easy when we're stressed, right? What and Islam tells us that we are supposed to have husnism, not suism, right? Meaning what? That we always have to give people the benefit of the doubt, the best interpretation. So, this is like a constant, somebody I know and myself, she says, you're just like not living on this planet. You're just always such an optimist, and things very often go wrong in my life. Like my optimism doesn't work, by the way. But the thing is, like, I keep telling her, but I'm happy. Right? If I am already expecting something bad, then I'm unhappy before the bad thing has happened. You know what I mean? So imagine there are two people like twins, and one person is an optimist, one is a pessimist. So the optimist is very happy, pessimist is very sad, and then a bad thing happens to both of them. Okay. Now the problem is that at least the optimist was happy till the bad thing happened. Right? So when we are continuously, doing, imposing negative interpretations on people's behavior, it's literally robs us of peace in the moment. Like, I don't know if I should say this, but for a long time, one of the ongoing challenges in my own relationship is timing. Like my husband, if you have to leave at 3, like 2:45, he's already in a bad mood, okay? Because he knows I'm going to be late. And so for many years, like, Eid morning would start, he's in a bad mood because we had to go to the first namaz, 4:45, and I would get this lecture on how he has to park and I get dropped off, at the thing. And so whatever. So like once I told him, I said, see, sweetheart, just give me a chance to be late and then get mad. Like, don't get mad in advance. Because what happens is that it causes more stress, right? And then when I'm stressed, I'm really getting late. Okay? Yes, exactly. But how often do we do that to our children? How often do we do that to our children, right? Give them a chance, okay? And don't expect that they're going to fail, because people often live up to our expectations, right? Again, if you're teachers, you've heard of this research. Okay. Avoid contempt. Contempt means what? That, it's very normal to have different ways of eating, different ways of dressing, different tastes, that's very, very common, okay? The problem is that when you see a difference in somebody else and you look down upon the person for that thing, well, that's how you do it. What? You don't celebrate birthdays in your house? What kind of people are you? That's contempt. And the Quran, by the way, if you don't, please go and read Surah Hujurat, full of lessons on how it is so bad. It says, oh, you who believe, do not let one people laugh at another. Perhaps they are better than you. So even if they're dressing in a way, eating in a way, whatever lifestyle changes that you have, which are different, is God testing us on that? No. Again, with him, there is only one standard, which is taqwa. So everything else that we look down upon, and first of all, taqwa is only between him and God, right? Between him means human beings and God. And everything else that we look down upon is our own problem. It's adding to our own lack of peace in this life. Then again, defensiveness. Defensiveness means what? So somebody is complaining to you, and what do? Yeah, I didn't do this, but what about this? What about this? What about when you did that? You don't look at yourself. Is that going to help? Does that ever help, by the way? Does a person ever says, you're so right? I shouldn't have said that. Right? Never, never. It will only lead to escalation, okay? So the idea is that when we, what research shows is that many couples, even happy couples, when they are engaging in conflict, very often go wrong. This happens, like, you get critical, you get defensive, you start stonewalling, all of these things happen. However, the happy couples or the happy families have a secret weapon. And that secret weapon is the skill of repair. What does repair mean? I'm sorry. Not, I'm sorry, but you're no angel yourself. That's not an apology. Okay, that is not an apology. Like the art of apologizing, we really need to learn. Whenever you say, I'm sorry, but you have literally added insult to injury at that point. Okay. So again, I love this hadith. Okay. So please listen. It's from the sixth Imam, and it is about and it is about when people are arguing. So he says, when two people begin an argument, two angels come down and tell the foolish and the more impetuous of the two, you have said and continue to say your point. And you are the only one worthy of saying it. In other words, there's no hope for you. Keep doing what you're doing, okay? And you will be given your due for what you have said. But then they turn to the patient one, the one who is more what we call evolved, who's been to lectures and majalis like this. And they say, you have been patient and clement. Clement means forgiving, easygoing. And Allah will forgive you if you continue being thus till the end of this argument. And if, contrary to their advice, the clement, yani the easygoing person, still retorts to the other, the two angels leave them and ascend again. You are on your own. Exactly. Isn't that beautiful? So now imagine when you are in, because how many people does it take to fight? Okay. So if one person is losing it, is that a fight? No, okay. Okay. So remember, there are angels actually advising you, breathe, pause, don't say anything, right? And if calm down, and if you kind of still go at it, then they say, forget this. We're out of here. Nobody can help you. Okay. So, the idea is that when we make mistakes, which we will, we are human beings, we need to have the humility to apologize and say sorry, even if we have to do it again and again and again. And by the way, if a person is so escalated that you cannot repair, at that point, they're not open to listening, it's a complete meltdown, then please take a time out. And this is very important because I see so many couples and allow people to take a time out. I know so many husbands complain. I say, okay, let's discuss this later, but my wife will follow me from room to room to room. Is that a good idea? No. Why? Because remember, thinking mind offline. And the more you do it, the worse it's going to get. So take a time out, allow people to, because again, what Imam Ali reminds us is that the angel which is chained by anger and desire cannot benefit from wisdom. No matter how good your point is at that point, the person who is that upset is not capable of hearing. So while it takes two people to fight, I strongly believe that one person can change a relationship. Absolutely. One person can also destroy it, by the way, single-handedly, but one person can also change it. Okay. So just summarizing, start gently, don't argue. Like it's, if a person is in that state, it's not, you need to bring that up at another point when people are calm. Forgive, don't find fault with others. Remember your own faults. Do not be stubborn. Keep your voice low. Do not react. Right. And if you can't repair in that moment, then begin to take a time out.